I just want to try something different here. Just like a sun over the mountaintop. You know I'll always come again. You know I love to spend my morning time like sunlight dancing on your skin. Never gone so wrong as to telling lies. What you've seen with what I've been. There is nothing I could hide from you. You see me better than I can.
Brushing Teeth with Robert.
And out on the road lies before me now. There are some times that I will spend and I only hope you can hold me now. Till I can gain control again.
Welcome.
And out on the road lies before me now. There are some times that I will spend and I only hope you can hold me now. Till I can gain control again.
Welcome. April 15th, 2020. Brushing Teeth with Robert. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here on this Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or whenever you decide to listen or see this. As you can tell, this one's going to have a little bit of a different feel to it. I want to talk about something that I think that we're all looking for, and we're trying to figure out right now as we get antsy, as these days go on, and as we're sequestered to our houses, and as we're probably feeling a little bit lonely at times, a little bit frustrated. As we feel like we want to just kind of run out in the street and see everybody and say hi, and I know that we're all getting a little tired of all this, and I can understand that. A lot of us are binge watching TV, of course, and I talk a lot about that. Watching a lot of movies, just kind of doing things around the house, and maybe even feeling a little lonely. So I want this to, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction on this one. And I want to talk about, escapism. And I'm going to talk about it in a little bit of a different light. All right. Because I know a lot of us probably are drinking a lot. A lot of us we're not calling our friends and family as much as we were when this thing first started, because we're feeling very solitary. We're feeling out there. And we're probably trying to escape into a lot of different things. I'm sure, just like I said, a lot of us are drinking. I'm sure some of us are doing drugs. I'm sure a lot of us are just diving into TV the second we get home. Some people are working. Some people are becoming workaholics and just diving into work. So I want to talk about that escapism, but I want to talk about it in a little bit of a different way. And I want to introduce you to a few things that I've always loved and appreciated, which is movies. I have. I love movies. I always have. So I want to talk about escapism in movies because I want to introduce y'all to three movies that I don't know whether you've seen or not. I'm sure a small minority of y'all have probably seen one, two, or maybe three of these movies. But these are movies that I think display a sense of escapism that might help us. They might help us a little bit, and they might give us maybe a little bit of solace, and they might give us that sense of escapism that maybe we're looking for right now. I don't know, maybe they won't, but I would say at least try them out. At least try them out because they're good movies, and they all three to me display escapism. Sorry, I have allergies bad, so they display a sense of escapism, and they display a sense of not only that but solitary escapism, even when you're amongst people, even when you're amongst a bunch of people. So please sit back, relax. This one's going to have a little bit of a different feel to it. There's not going to be any real stories about myself. There's not going to be any funny quips or rude or crude observations. But I do think these are movies that might give you a pathway out for a little while, and put yourself in the shoes of other people that I think that we all at times need. All right, so if you've seen these movies, please revisit them. They're great. They're great movies. I saw almost all three of these movies when I was younger, and they gave me almost like a zest for movies, and they gave me a sense of longing and remembrance, and they also kind of gave me a little bit of a hug. You know, movies can do that. Movies can do that. They can give you. They can almost wrap their arms around you sometimes and make you feel like somebody who you've never met or never seen. A story you've never lived gives you. It rings home. It'll ring home. And I hope that any of these movies help you if you decide to watch them. If you don't, at least watch the trailers because they're interesting. They're very, 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 very interesting movies. So let's get into it. So this first movie I saw when I was very young. I don't know if anybody has seen it, and I hope you all have, but it's called Down by Law. Down by Law is a phenomenal movie. It's by a director named Jim Jarmusch. Jim Jarmusch, this was, I believe, his first movie. It was done in 1986, and it featured Tom Waits, John Lurie, and Robert Benigni. And I believe I am pronouncing that right, but maybe I am wrong. Robert Benigni is a French comedic actor. Along the lines of Robin Williams, there was a lot of times when he was compared to kind of a French Robin Williams. And of course, Tom Waits. I love Tom Waits in a lot of movies. Sometimes he is... That voice is something else. Speaking of which, let's give you a little piece of trivia while we're at this. So Austin City Limits, so we're all familiar with it, and most people believe that the very first Austin City Limits starred Willie Nelson, which it did. But what is it called? What's the first? I can't remember off the top of my head, but before a TV show becomes a TV show, a pilot. Oh, pilot. The actual pilot episode of Austin Limits was not Willie Nelson. The pilot episode of Austin Limits is Tom Waits. And it's a phenomenal Austin Limits. I highly, highly recommend it. John Lurie is a great actor. He's been in some stellar movies. One of my favorite movies he was in. He played the brother in Do the Right Thing. He played John Turturro's brother in Do the Right Thing, and him and John Turturro both worked at the pizza shop that was owned by their father, who was Aielli. I can't believe I can't remember his name right now, but it's a great movie, black and white. By the way, a lot of people have credit with being one of the very kind of first quote independent films unquote. It is a fantastic movie about two friends that get thrown in jail. And when they are in jail, they meet Robert Benigni, who speaks very, very, very broken English. And he drags them along on an escape from jail. And thus the story begins. It's a phenomenal movie. It's not too much unlike a Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's got a lot of different characters in it. It's got a lot of different situations they're put into. It's also reminiscent of, not reminiscent because something else would be reminiscent of it. If you ever seen the movie Dead Man with Johnny Depp, where Johnny Depp plays a cow. He plays an accountant who gets thrust in. He's in the Old West, and he plays an accountant who goes to a town in which they have a job for him, and the job is not there when he gets there. And that movie also is in black and white. And that movie is very reminiscent of this. There are a lot of different scenes in Down by Law that are similar. Water, a lot of long traveling scenes, and it's phenomenal. So see Dead Man as well. But Down by Law by Jim Jarmusch is a great escape film, full of folly and full of different characters that are unique. It also stars a very young and extremely hot Ellen Barkin, who still looks phenomenal, by the way. So it's about an escape. It's about an escape from jail that's fraught with just peril, and odd, absurdist comedy. Not too much unlike if Waiting for Godot was a jail escape film. That's very much what it's like. So if you have the time, as we all seem to have right now, please watch it. Down by Law by Jim Jarmusch. You can probably find it online. By the way, I am not going to tell you where to find these movies. So if you're looking at that, if you're looking for me to tell you it's streaming on Hulu or it's on Amazon or Netflix, I am not here to advertise for any of them. I am here to merely tell you about these films and that you should see them. And if you so choose, well, find them. Find them and watch them. They're worth it. And Down by Law is absolutely worth it. I think Down by Law might have been... Let's see, I would have been 12, and I saw it in the movie theater. I saw it at a place called River Oaks Theater in Houston. And I believe it may have been one of the first independent films I ever saw. It also, another movie that's very reminiscent of it is a movie called My Private Idaho. My Private Idaho is River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves. It also has a cast of crazy characters. William S. Burroughs is in it. Why do I think Tom Waits is in My Private Idaho also? But it's about two male prostitutes, and one of them has narcolepsy. And it is about escaping your former life, which Down by Law is about. It really is. It has a lot of story to tell about trying to escape yourself. And not just escape the physical jail, but the mental and psychological and spiritual jail that we all find ourselves in at times. That we find ourselves kind of going in a snake eating its tail kind of situation at times. So my second film that I think you should see during this time that displays escapism is a very not a lot of people know about this film, but it's a movie called After Hours. It was done by Martin Scorsese, so it's a Scorsese flick. And it's funny because when I hear people talk about Scorsese flicks, they almost always go towards the Italian mobster flicks. Almost always, and that's understandable. But After Hours is a film about New York, and it's about New York in the 80s. So it was produced in 1985. It has the largest cast, I think, of just about almost any movie that I've ever seen in my life. Griffin Dunne, Rosanna Arquette, Cheech and Chong are in it. John Hurt is in it. Terry Garr is in it. Linda Fiorentino is in it. Catherine O'Hara is in it. It is an insane film. It's basically about a kind of a yuppie. At the time, I don't know if any of you are old enough to know that term, but yuppie was like a hippie that in the 80s ended up going from the free love era into success and culture and a lot of times Wall Street, and a lot of times going from that free love and peace era into the era of Reagan-esque kind of money means things, and whereas when I was a rebellious, idealistic hippie, it meant nothing, free love, and it went from kind of like the marijuana, like hippies were, the people went from marijuana and free love into Wall Street and cocaine. So that was pretty much a yuppie, and it's basically about a yuppie who is in Manhattan, probably lives on the Upper West Side, and he goes on a date with Rosanna Arquette, who's kind of a quirky, different than him kind of person. And they meet in the, if I remember correctly, the Lower East Side. And Lower East Side back then was very sketchy. And it was where a lot of the bohemian artists, like The Village, lived. And it's basically what happens is during the date, she kind of abandons him. Maybe that's not a right word. Maybe abandon isn't a right word. Their paths separate. And in this crazy bohemian village artist atmosphere, for some reason, I don't know why, I think Basquiat is in it, or Basquiat, or whatever you want to pronounce his name as, is in it. I could be wrong, but I feel like he is. I feel like he makes a cameo in it. And he basically, Griffin Dunne, who is the yuppie, gets confused for a rapist in the neighborhood. So as he's searching for her, he kind of gets into this case of mistaken identity where he has to kind of run for his life. There are a few really neat pieces of trivia in it as far as where it's filmed and especially who's in it, because one of the, a lot of times you can tell an early film done by a director in their youth is because their family is in it. And in this film, Martin Scorsese's mother and father are in it, and they are in a club scene. So I've always thought that was a really, really neat piece of trivia. So it's not only about Griffin Dunne trying to escape the situation he's in, but it's also about him escaping the preconceived notions that he has always had about his life and people. He's fairly uptight. Fairly uptight is a is a bad term. He's uptight. He's very uptight, and he's very strict about his life, and he's very, this is what I do, and this is what I am, and this is where I go. And he has to take himself out of that comfort zone many times during him trying to basically escape the village. Basically escape and get to his house. And it's a great movie. And Griffin Dunne is a phenomenally underrated actor, in my opinion. He really is. He truly is. So I highly recommend you see it. It's called After Hours. It is, again, by Martin Scorsese. It's a great movie about escape. So if you can see it, see it. I know it's out there, and the reason I know it's out there is because I searched for it not too long ago, and it is streaming somewhere, but I'm not going to tell you where. So if you decide to see it, please do. It's a lot of fun. The Cheech and Chong cameo is phenomenal. In fact, I even remember when I saw it, saw this in the movie theater, and I even remember when I saw it, I had seen Cheech and Chong's movies. And so I always pictured, of course, like Abbott and Costello and Abbott and Costello movies. Three Stooges movies. Cheech and Chong movies. So it was one of the first times I'd ever seen them not in a movie that was Cheech and Chong's, Corsican Brothers, or Cheech and Chong's, whatever it was. So it was neat to see them not only not play a leading role, but it was nice to see them just literally doing a cameo. Literally doing a cameo. So highly suggested. Again, After Hours stars Griffin Dunne, Rosanna Arquette, humongous cast of characters, and it'll make you laugh. It's a lot of times it's fun to revisit movies like this because you get to see those actors that are huge now, and you get to see them when they were young and vibrant and not playing a pocketed role. So After Hours, please go see it. Now my last movie is very, very, very special to me. It is, I'm almost positive it's not a movie a lot of people have seen. If you really want to talk about true escapism, and you really want to talk about removing yourself from your reality and from your situation, the best way to do that, of course, is when you're dreaming. And this one is called Dreams. It was in 1990. It was done by Akira Kurosawa, which, of course, whenever you bring him up, people are always going to lean towards samurai movies. They truly are. And that's understandable. This one was actually made later in his life. He made this when he was 80 years old. And it was not well received. It never was well received. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. It's very slow tempoed. It's a lot like as if you were watching kabuki theater, or if you were watching a very well done slow Shakespearean romance. It's a completely disjointed movie too. There is no plot to it. It's 8 different stories. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the names of them and the titles of the stories. All right. Sunshine Through the Rain, The Peach Orchard, The Blizzard, The Tunnel, Crows, Mount Fijian Red, The Weeping Demon, and Village of the Watermill. It's 8 different dreams, and they're phenomenally shot, as Kurosawa did. As we know, he was very, very good at scenery. But the best thing about this is the stories within the stories. And they're basically 8 visually told fairy tales, ranging from the very, very ancient to the very, very modern. And they're beautifully told and beautifully shot. One of my favorites is The Peach Orchard. The Peach Orchard is, it starts with a child going to sleep and peeking out on a peach orchard that his family has had to cut down. And the peach orchard basically comes to life. A lot of people talked about it being a metaphor or an allegory. One of the I'm probably using one of those wrong. About Kurosawa's deceased sister. It's a phenomenally told piece of cinema that will, if you aren't caught by the cinematography on this, you're going to be caught by the stories. The stories are just hit so hard, and they're dreams. They're dreams. It's a very, again, slow, melodic set of dreams you're watching. It's also one of Kurosawa's few color films that he did. It only adds to it. One of my favorite pieces of trivia is in the story Crows. Crows was actually the special effects were actually done by Industrial Light and Magic, and they were done by George Lucas. He supervised it. And again, full circle around, Martin Scorsese's in it. And he plays Vincent Van Gogh. It's a great, great, great movie. And to me, Dreams reminds me a lot of the difference between what the audience likes and what critics like. So Rotten Tomatoes only has, I think, like 20 reviews of it, maybe 30. And they are, I think the reviews are something like 60% or something like that. But the audience reviews of it are like 86%. And I don't put a lot of vestige in what critics think anyways. And I think a lot of people say that. I find that I think younger people, and I could be stereotyping here, that younger people will put a lot more faith in reviews and Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that than older people. And I think it's because we did not grow up in... There was Siskel and Ebert. There was no Rotten Tomatoes when we were younger. There was Siskel and Ebert. That's who you had. And then you had the guy with the creepy mustache on the Today Show. That's all you had. So I remember watching Dreams at a very pivotal point in my life. And I remember I was having a very hard time. And Dreams helped me escape that hard time. As dreams do, which is weird, which is the funny point of this entire thing. I know that we're all having a little bit of a hard time. We're starting to get a little stir crazy. I'm trying not to make a political statement about those people who want to open up everything too quickly right now, so I'm not going to. But I will say that escapism is out there if you need it and if you want it. And whether you are escaping into exercise or your lawn or alcohol or drugs or a significant other or however you're escaping, do it. Do it. Because now's the time to do it when responsibility is a little bit more lacking, I guess. Because we really only have one person to be responsible for, which is ourselves. So those are three. I hope that at least you watch one of them. If you decide to watch all three, you're welcome. No one, to me, I'm not going to pick a favorite. No one is going to be better than the other. They all are equal on their own merits. And they're all about escapism. And they're all about escaping a current situation that sometimes you need to and sometimes you don't need to escape from. And that's okay. That's okay. So if you choose to see any of those, please do. Down by Law by Jim Jarmusch, After Hours by Martin Scorsese, and of course Dreams by Kurosawa. I know this podcast has a little bit of a different feel to it. I am still getting my sea legs, and I thought that this would be a nice kind of down-tempo thing for a Wednesday. We've made it this far. We made this far in the week. And I will be live on Saturday. So if anybody wants to call in or join, please feel free. Also, please subscribe. Somewhere down here is a subscribe button. You know, if you like what you saw. Again, I'm trying to keep these just light, 30 minutes, real easy to see. And I hope you enjoyed this. You know, I really do. I hope you enjoy watching me. I hope you enjoy what I'm bringing to the table here. And I hope that you check out one of those movies because they're a lot of fun and they're really good to watch. And so until Saturday, remember we're going to get through this. We are. It's not going to be long now. All right. It's really not. So, Rusty D. Robert. April 15th, 2020. Thanks for staying along with me. If anybody sees Logan, let him know he owes me money. Till then, see you on Saturday. Have a good rest of your week. Thank you. Cheers.